Hello and welcome to In Business Talks2, a weekly podcast about people who work together as a couple. Learn the secrets of business partnerships, the benefits and pitfalls of working together, be it husband and wife, father and son, mother and daughter, friends, relatives, or any other combinations of business partnerships. We are your hosts, Tracy and Lionel, founders of In Business, a networking and business support community, and together
we are In Business. This week's guests are Sheles and Damon Wallace of Billionaire Thoughts. They help driven and energetic business owners and leaders increase their profits and their operating efficiencies.
As well as speaking with other couples, we'll let you know of any useful business apps and websites out there that our members have come across and shared with us in our regular weekly online meetings.
Plus, we'll tell you about our special bonus episode this coming Friday, our Friday Fix, so be sure to listen all the way through to the end to find out more. Without further ado, let's crack on with episode 21 of In Business Talks2. So we're excited today to welcome Sheles and Damon Wallace of Billionaire Thoughts. Now they're joining us today all the way from Texas. So welcome, guys.
Welcome, guys. Good to have you with us today.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Right, so just before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about what you guys do before we get into the questions? What is it that you guys actually do?
We help business owners to increase their profits, grow stronger teams, and for business owners to buy back their time, for them to have more life, to do the things that they wanted to do and things that they were hoping to do when they went into business in the first place. And then once we help them in that process, the next step is making sure that the next part of their life is also being addressed. And that's where my husband comes in.
Ah, right.
So I work with our clients on helping them to actually make the right moves with their money as they're actually making more money and having more time to enjoy it. We make sure that they put themselves in a position where they can understand the value of their business for retirement and that they've actually made the right other financial moves outside of their business to be able to retire efficiently. We kind of really started with the premise of looking at there's a theory called the hub and spoke theory. And it is that if you are a car dealership, as an example, that your selling cars is your hub. And then the spokes off of that would be the service department. It's all the other little things that you can sell along the way. It's making sure that you've got these warranties and all the other stuff. So the focus is selling cars, but you've got these other products that you sell.
Right.
And we decided to look at our company and look at it different. And we said, well, instead of putting a product or a service at the center of who we are, we wanted to put the entrepreneur at the center of who we are and what we're here for. And then we looked at all the things that entrepreneurs need in order to be successful,
Right.
how to have a well-rounded, more successful life. And we wanted to be that resource center for them and helping them to do it. Now, not to say that we're going to offer everything that an entrepreneur would ever need, but we wanted to be that focal point to help guide them to those right ideas or right concepts or right lifestyles. So that's kind of really where we started. And it was the concept of Billionaire Thoughts. It all starts with mindset. It all starts with the right thoughts and the right direction, the right actions to help you get to your end goal.
Right. Oh, excellent. Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah. So next question goes: how long have you been working together then as a couple? How long have you been going?
Did you start off as a couple? Actually,
yeah. How did you start? Yeah. How did it all begin?
So we actually did not start off as a couple originally. When we first started working together. We actually were at another company together. And we decided that we were actually going to work together, as a matter of fact, in the financial services industry. So kind of what I do now was where we really started our first entrepreneurial journey together. And even then, we were still just friends. But over time, working together, just got closer, built a stronger relationship. And then in 2008, we decided that's when we kind of pulled out the whiteboard and we created what was to become Billionaire Thoughts of today. And so we started Billionaire Thoughts in 2008, and we've been at it ever since.
Right.
Yeah,
Well.
yeah, but not a good time to start, was it? 2008.
It was a horrible time. We left jobs in 2008 to go start our own business. It was a brilliant idea, of course.
Funny how these things turn out sometimes, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
How did that go in the beginning?
Yeah.
It was definitely challenging in the beginning. We used to always hear stories about these entrepreneurs who had these terrible downturns in business, and we were like, man, I remember joking at it at one time when we were at a conference, and we said, man, I don't know if we're ever going to be as successful as we could be, because we don't have that story to tell.
Yeah.
And 2008 gave us that story.
Yeah. So whose idea was it to actually go into business together then? Did you think, right, let's just do it? Or what was the catalyst, if you like? What was it that prompted you to do that?
I gotta tell you, it was, I think it was just more, I don't even know if it was a conscious, it just flowed. So it wasn't like we had this aha moment of let's do it, because we'd already been entrepreneurs. We'd already started business. We just hadn't started Billionaire Thoughts yet.
Right.
So we had been working together and doing business and had success in our business up to that point. And we just decided, we had worked with direct sales companies before. And so we had great success in that industry. And we said, well, surely, if we could jump out and we could do it. And we realized there's a big difference between being a direct sales entrepreneur and actually starting a business.
Yes.
And so, again, not to say that there are different paths for everyone, but having to do the complete process versus trying to actually grab a hold of a business that was already built and designed, and all you had to do was go out and do the marketing for it. It's a completely different model.
Definitely.
And we learned that immediately.
Yeah. We say this all the time, that people are really good at what they do, but running a business is a totally different ball game. And you don't have all the skills, the marketing skills or the social media skills or the even accountancy skills to do all the things that you need to do.
We have a saying, don't you? You don't know what you don't know. So unless you start doing it, you don't know you need all these other things. Like Trish said, you're probably brilliant at selling and things like that. But you think, oh, just a minute, how do we market ourselves? What about the financials? Like everything else that goes with running a business? It's a bit daunting. So it's nice to hear that everybody, even in America, have the same hang-ups as we have when starting a business from the beginning as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so true. And when you think about how most business owners get started, they have a trade or a skill that they're really, really good at, right? And they're like, oh, I can do a better job than my boss. My boss really drives me crazy, so I'm just going to step out on my own and do it myself. And then they realize that they were only doing one or two pieces and not the entire running a business. And that's where you get in trouble, because you don't know. But experience is a good teacher if you learn from the lessons, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think business is a jigsaw, isn't it? Sometimes one piece when you first start out, but you don't know all the pieces, and that's the difference to all the pieces come together. It's not a business, really, is it? That's the difference. Yeah.
And learning from experience is expensive. So
yes.
The more you can learn from other people, the better.
That's right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the things that Sheles says all the time is one of the biggest things that actually led to us really kind of even going to the whiteboard and starting this business in the first place was, really kind of learning some of the mistakes, some of the things that we had in challenges of business. Why we do coaching today is because we don't want others to make those same mistakes. And if we can help head off some of those mistakes, then that's going to be an exponentially different business for the people that we work with versus people, again, kind of going through bumping their head, and maybe they survive in business and maybe they don't, and if they do survive, it's going to take them much longer in the learning curve than having someone say, have you thought about this? And having those aha moments ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, do you have a shared vision for the business then? Is it something that you both agreed on from the start?
I would say that depends on the day.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to let my husband answer this question, but let's just say that we have went through several stages of the vision, but he definitely has a clear vision of what he wants the company to look like. But sometimes when you're together, you like his vision is really big, and I hadn't caught up yet.
Right.
So because you said it was a share, like it has taken me time to catch up to his
Right.
vision. You know, in my mind, right? And Billionaire thoughts again about the mindset. Like my mindset couldn't even see what he had planned for us. So I think that's phenomenal.
Right. So Damon, what is your vision, Damon?
So I actually built out a business model that would actually span us across 200 cities. And so my thought process was to continue to extend and grow. There's companies that are here that are originally where we're from that that really had a business model of kind of having an office on every corner. And so, not to say that that's necessarily the model that we want to follow, but I've really always liked that small group feeling, but having the ability to have multiple offices, multiple places in different cities, but then spanning out to multiple cities. And so that requires us to build out the vision slightly differently and a bit more aggressive than my wife is sometimes comfortable with.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you're only young, you've got time to do
you've
that.
plenty of time to do that. Yeah. So next question then, guys. Do you agree on everything?
Absolutely.
I think I know the answer to this, actually, without asking.
That gets into how we decided to move forward with helping couples in business. Is because when we were in business together, we never argued in the beginning. Like we still don't argue, but we didn't even have disagreements. Like life was just like, hey, we're just going to run together, do whatever together. And then at some point in this journey, we started disagreeing about how to run the business. We didn't disagree on the end result. You know, we finally got there together. It took me some time. I definitely had some vision issues, right? But where we were going was always clear. But how to get there is when we start having major disagreements, not arguments, not fights. We just didn't agree, and so there was tension in the home. And what we realized is that people that are married or couples in business, they have to work together. They have to come home together. They are going grocery shopping. Like they're together all the time. And so after a while, that becomes a strain. So what we had to do is agree to disagree. And then we had to set some roles for each other. Like my role in the business would be XYZ, and his role in the business would be something else, right? And the challenge that we had is we're both skilled in the same areas, right? So Damon understands marketing. I understand marketing. He understands financials. I do as well, right? And so we're putting our energy and effort and our resources all at the same thing, right? And so that's where the challenges came, and that's where the problems came. And so we had to really stop and say, who's the best in these areas and who's most passionate. So I love marketing and I'm very, very passionate about it. So that became my responsibility, right? It didn't mean that we wouldn't talk about things, but it meant that at the end of the day, I'm responsible for it. So Damon is really, really good when it comes to finances. Like he is truly an expert in that area. So that became what he would focus on. So we still have to talk. Like it doesn't mean that he gets to do all the finances and I don't know what's going on as a wife or as a business partner. That would be the worst thing that anyone can do, is not truly understand the finances in your business. So we still come together and we have regular meetings, but at the same time, he's responsible to make sure all of that's taken care of. So yes, we disagree for sure. But it's how we handle the disagreements that makes it so that we can have a healthy relationship and a healthy partnership in business.
Right. And I think that's important. I think a lot of that's come across from different couples that we have interviewed, that people fairly quickly, you need to define your roles within that business. I think it's important, that, isn't it? Because like you say, for an example, if you don't, it just ends up being disagreeing and you don't make any progress. And we've witnessed that lots of times. Lots of couples have been on the show have actually said that. So it's obviously a common thread. Decide upon your roles first, yeah, which is important, isn't it?
Yeah. And was there some gaps in your skills between you? Did you have to go out and learn to do something that you're not familiar with?
I would say that we pretty much had a good grasp on what we had to do in terms of the technical skills in our space. I would say the biggest gap had more to do with what we enjoyed doing versus what we didn't enjoy doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably where more of our shortfalls were coming into place, and where we had to look to shore up those things. So I can do sales, but I'm not always the most fond of going out and doing prospecting and doing the groundwork.
Yeah.
And so versus trying to become that piece of the company that I didn't enjoy as much, we look to actually hire someone for that position. And so there's a piece of business where you have to be okay with hiring out your weaknesses or those areas that you're not as fond of, so that you can continue to grow and move forward. You have to do the groundwork to be ready for that. But I mean, once you are, then that could help your business grow exponentially.
Right. And who holds you accountable? Do you hold each other accountable? What guides do you have? What do you do?
Well, we have multiple coaches. So there was a kind of a running joke, especially when we first started. We had three coaches. And so our three coaches were our council, our tribune, so to speak. And so whenever we disagreed about something, we would just go take it to the coaches independently. And then the coaches would vote on what direction we thought or they thought that we should go. And then that's the direction we would just agree to submit to. And so, regardless of who came out, it went in their favor. We would just agree to it, and that would just be it.
Right. That was quite valuable then, having those people there, wasn't it? I suppose, to help you move forward. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, what coaching provides is it's also like that board of directors for you. Like you can check your sanity without going to your friends, your relatives, right? Because they don't understand business, because most of them are not business owners. So when you try to go to them to get advice that pertains to your relationship and business, man, that can be such a disaster. That's why having, a professional coach, a third party, a mentor can really make a difference in making sure that you're able to continue to have that successful relationship together.
Like what you hear so far, make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe or follow button. This podcast is made possible because of listeners like you, so thank you, we really appreciate your support. Now, back to the show. Because you didn't start off coaching couples, did you?
No, and we don't, our business is not just couples. So we have a lot of clients that are not couples. And how we started off is because we had a lot of clients that were couples in business, and they had different challenges. From a business perspective, the challenges are the same, right? Your marketing needs to be done. Do you understand your financials? Like hiring and recruiting, all of that was similar, but they were doing it together. So that created a whole nother set of challenges. And then prior to that, we were having challenges, right? And so I couldn't figure out, why all of a sudden are we having challenges? We've been doing business forever. And all of that was doing was preparing us for being able to help our clients that were couples in business. And we realized that they needed more. And just like you guys, like your podcast is all about helping, couples in business and being there to help them in their process, because that's a gap that's missing. Like, it's different than just you working by yourself or with your employees, opposed to the person that you have committed the rest of your life to. It's different.
Yeah, has working together as a married couple strengthened your relationship in any way? Does that make sense?
Oh, I'm going to let my husband go with this
Oh,
first.
sure. Thank you. So I'll answer in this way. We as so when we did have our downturn, as kind of getting things going in business in the very early stages of the business, ironically you would think that while and again, just being completely candid, we had times where it's like, well, do you want bread or should we get gas for the car? I mean, because we can't really do
Yeah.
both, right? But as we were going through those times, we never had friction. It was us against the world. When any friction seemed to come in, it was more of when we actually had phenomenal months and we would do 30, 40, 50, $70,000 type months. And now we're like, well, okay, now what do we do with the money? That's when some of those friction moments in a relationship happen.
A nice problem
But
to
as far as yeah, it's a reality because then people have different thought processes, and that's when your beliefs about money really kind of come into play much more. But as far as the relationship, I would say that it's had to be strong no matter what. I mean, because we're around each other pretty much 24/7, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so when we go to work, we're right there together. We come home, we're right there together, and there's very little space that's in between. But she's my best friend, right? And so I enjoy spending time with her. Even when we have those moments where it's, where there's a little bit of tension around a subject, we know that it's around that subject and not necessarily us, right?
Yeah.
It's just a disagreement. And when you can get clarity on what the real challenge is, then you can fix those. And that's in any relationship, whether you're working together or not, getting real clarity on those moments of tension and what it's really about can help you have a stronger relationship, period.
Yeah.
We've had more moments to test that out.
Yeah. The other thing that I would add to that is from a relationship standpoint, it's also, I feel it's also strengthened our relationship with our daughter as well, So whenever you are a couple in business, you're a family business, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you have children that are maybe 2 and 3, they're affected differently, right? But then when you have as your children grow up and now they're like 20 or 18 or 16, you're building this relationship with them as well, because this can show up in their life as an entrepreneur, can show up in their life as a tragedy or a success, or they can learn the process, right? So some entrepreneurs, when they struggle, that means that their children struggle as well, right? It affects the entire family. When they have success, that's healthy, for the family. Typically, it depends on your values, right? And how you raise your children. But the whole thing is that the relationship ends up being about the entire family as well.
So what have been your high moments of your business so far?
Working together as a married couple, what's been the biggest high?
I think it's not one pot of gold at the end. It's us being willing to enjoy the journey and the pots of gold that are on the journey.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're like, oh, I just want to get to this place. And that's something that we had to learn, especially me, because I was always, man, we're not here yet. We haven't hit this goal yet. We haven't done that yet. And I was forgetting to enjoy, both of us, in my opinion, to enjoy the journey and the moment. It's like I was listening to Darren Hardy, and I think maybe he was quoting Jim Rohn, but at the end of the day, you can't do yourself to success. You have to become the person that you're trying to attract so that you can have that success. And as you're becoming, man, you should enjoy every stage of becoming, right? It's just like your children. You enjoy when they're 2, but you also enjoy when they're 5. Every single moment brings different joy. And some moments, and the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, children, when they turn 16, some moments you're like, oh, can we get past this stage, right? So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. We just have to remember that you have pots of goals throughout the entire journey, and you want to enjoy that. So I think for us, it's the fact that we are able to enjoy being entrepreneurs, even the ups and downs that we're experiencing, but we're growing through each one of those, and we're becoming better, and we're helping more people. So for us, the moments in business that we are just excited about is when we help our clients and we see them in tears because their lives have changed. We believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And they're like, you told me that I can do this. And I would have never thought I would have been able to make this amount of money and have, go from a single solopreneur to have 12 people on the team in less than 3 years. So that's the high for us. Like when we see the success in others.
Yeah. Well, the same. That's we like that as well. That's what we enjoy. It's a strange feeling that when you see somebody progressing and doing well because of something you've helped with. It's a nice feeling, isn't it? It's a good feeling. You feel you've achieved something, and you can't put a value on that, really, can you? That's the thing. It's good.
That is so true. Absolutely. And when you think about it, it's a lot of ways to make money. When you think about the background, like my background is engineering, and when you think about the fact that you go into coaching to help someone else, or you go into mentoring or just helping others, that's different. Like you could have chose to do something different, but the fact that you're doing that means that you care and you want to help people, and that's the joy in it.
It is. And do you find you talk about business in your downtime? Or do you get to 5 o'clock on a Friday and say, right, that's it, the weekend starts now? Or are you like us? You never really switch off. What is it you do, you guys? Do you switch off at a certain
I
time?
would say it's kind of a 80-20. So I have a shut off switch where she does not. So
That sounds a bit
I
like
know how.
sounds a bit like us.
So I know how to stop. I definitely know how to. My day is done. I put everything on. So I'm one of those index card guys. So I put my main things that I want to get done on index cards. And once I've completed the tasks that are on my index cards, I could care less what happens for the rest of the day. I got done what I needed to get done, and I'm happy with the results of my day. Sheles is a wake up, she'll be at her computer at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she's there until 9, 10 o'clock at night, whenever she's ready to pass out and go to sleep. And so sometimes I have to grab her like, hey, let's go to the movies, or let's go do something, or let's watch this, or let's, do something to get away from it. We have offices in 2 different parts of the country. And so we often, like at least once a quarter, we drive back and forth between one and the other. And it's about a 13 and a half, 14-hour drive. People ask us all the time, why don't we just fly? Because it's one of the only times that we get in a car and we go places and it doesn't have cell phone reception for half of the time. So we're forced to actually talk and not have these business conversations or be on our phone or other stuff. And so there's ways to make yourself kind of separate from the business. But I think anytime you're entrepreneurs as a couple in business, it's going to be the majority of your day, mostly because it's what you enjoy doing, not just because it's just straight work.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're the same. We enjoy what we're doing, and sometimes you have an idea, and if I don't say what my idea is to Tracy and pass it on, I'd forget. It goes out my head then. So I have this. I feel like I have to say, "Oh, I've had this idea," and then tell you about it. And then because if I don't, it's gone. I've had some brilliant ideas, guys, but I can't remember any of them. But it's one of those things, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just can't switch off sometimes.
Yeah,
but you should. I think you should.
Yeah, and I think you just want to keep improving, so you're constantly thinking of what you can do next and how you can expand and how you can make it all better. And I think that's just maybe the way a business owner's brain works. I don't know.
And in our experience, one of the things that I would also say to that point is that you really have almost 2 different types of entrepreneurs. you have the entrepreneurs who are the business owner, and they're worried about what their business is doing and that constant ebb and flow of what's happening in this single business. And then you have the serial entrepreneurs that are like always thinking of new ideas, new concepts, new things that they could be doing, or even integrating into their existing business. But they're constantly creating in their thought processes. And the ones who create are the ones who are having more fun. They're almost playing Monopoly, with business, as opposed to it being something that's stressful. So you're enjoying the creating process. And one type is pretty healthy and the other one is not. And so it really depends on which type you are, or the people who are engaged in that all day working process.
Yeah.
I've got a bit. I've got a bit of a tricky question here for you guys. Are you ready for this one? This is one of my favourites. This one. I'll start with you, Sheles, first, I think, and then we'll move on to Daman. I'll give you first go on this one, Sheles. So, what is Damon's most annoying habit at work?
Okay, Ian.
Told you it was tricky.
So Damon, okay, so this is what I've learned, but let me tell you, okay, see, the best way to start it off. Okay, so Damon, when he is in his mode of thinking, right, processing, he is very standoffish, and it makes me feel like he's not into me. And I'm like, well, what has happened? What am I doing? I honestly feel it's like border. I perceive it. I'm not saying that that's the case. I perceive it as him being mean to me because he's standoffish, right?
Yeah.
And so that is annoying to me. But over the years of us being together, what I've learned is extroverts, we think out loud. So whatever we're thinking, we're telling it, we're saying it because we're thinking out loud, right? Introverts, they don't think out loud. They're processing and they're thinking inside of their head. And that's what Damon does. And so once I realized that he's thinking inside and it's not personal, let him think. I just want him to tell me, I'm thinking now, this is my thinking mode. Like he just goes into it. Like I need a sign on the door.
Yeah, you need a bit of warning.
That's where you are. So it would be that for me.
Right. And the same question to you, Damon. Come on, you get your turn now, Damon. What Sheles' most annoying habit?
So there's two sides of the coin, right? I am, as we talked about earlier, I can be kind of more futuristic in nature. So I can think about things, about how the business should look 10, 20, 30 years from now, or creating a business that's going to sustain for generations beyond us. And so I think about things in those terms, and then I build backwards. Whereas Sheles thinks about things of, like, if I say something that I'm thinking of for 10, 15 years down the road, she's figuring out how do we do this today? And so her thought processes lend to more immediate, where mine are more long-term. And so that can also be one of those times where it causes friction because I'm talking about something much, much further down the road. And she's like, well, I don't know how we can afford to do that today. Like I'm talking about renting out, stadiums. And she's like, what? We can't rent out a stadium. Right. And so those, it's a good thing because it keeps me grounded at times and keeps me focused on the today and not just so lost into the future. But it also can be annoying because I like to dream and my dreams drive me to do action today.
That's right. Yeah. Because you've got to have those visions, haven't you? And so that you can start taking steps towards them, and to making them a reality. So we're a bit like that. You come up with all this blue sky stuff.
I'm classed as a blue sky thinker. I come up with everything.
And I'm like, hang on a minute. Yes. We've got this to do at this moment in time. Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah. But, we've got this to do. Yeah. So, we're a bit like that. So,
if you could do it all again, would you? If you could turn back the clock
to 2008,
if you had to make the same decision again, would you and what might you do different?
So, yes, we would have done it again. But what we would have done differently is, and I don't know if it would have made a difference, but I'm thinking this is something that we would have done differently based on what we know today.
Yeah.
Right? So it may not have made a difference because we know more today than we did before, but both of us walking away from, 6-figure jobs, and I don't want to say security because there's no such thing as that, but the lifestyle that we were able to afford, both of us walking away at the same time and being so green, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I think that made it tough because all of the revenue or the money that came into our business, if you're not fully funded or have some funding from the beginning, which we did have savings, but it's easy to go through savings on your entrepreneurship journey.
Yes.
But that cushion, after a year, we were like, okay, I mean, you can make one mistake and that can wipe out all of your savings, So what we would have done differently is one of us would have held on to our job just a little longer, so that we would have continued to have income coming in until we reached a certain point.
Right.
And what tip or advice would you give someone thinking of going into business with a partner?
Sure. So I would say that there is much to be said about having, again, partial stability inside of the organization. Or if one of you, if you're thinking about going into business, maybe one of you being the face of the business and then the other one keeping some kind of a stable background, unless you have the funding and all the other stuff necessary to sustain, because it's a lot easier, I should say, to build a business when there's not the same kind of pressure to produce. That you're trying to basically. There's a saying that's in The Richest Man in Babylon, and he's talking about when you're building wealth and you're making money or saving money, when you start going to spend that money on stuff, and it's like, surely you eat the children of your kids, right? So it's like he's talking about how you're cannibalizing your own wealth as you're building. And so that concept, if you have something that's a stable income, then now you don't have to cannibalize the growth of the business because you're eating the income of the business. You can put that back into the growth. And so I think there's something to be said about that aspect.
Yeah.
Jim Rohn also said that you can work full time while on your job while working part time on your fortune. And I would say that that's something that I would advise to someone starting off.
Yeah.
Have some sort of
a bit of a backup, really. It's a bit of a security blanket almost, isn't it? So you're not jumping at the deep end, both feet.
Throwing all
really.
your eggs in one basket. Yeah.
Absolutely. And get help, right? So some of the major mistakes that we made, if we would have had someone to bounce it off on, we probably would not have made those same mistakes.
Mm.
So.
Yeah. And what do you think allows you to work so well together?
Well, I would say, kind of going back to something I said earlier in the interview, and that, I mean, she's like my best friend. And so, we have a lot of fun in going back and forth and talking about things and ideas and going out and actually doing and implementing, and then seeing the growth of what we've put in place. Separating those roles was a massive differentiator in terms of us running the business, instead of always, having our opinions be the primary thing. We felt that people should be listening to us on certain areas, dividing out those roles. If you say it's a marketing go, fine, it's your decision. Just tell me, we'll make it happen. Yeah. Having those kind of conversations made it much, much easier for us to be able to stay in business and stay happily married.
Yeah. And that's the important thing, of course. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you, and
to you guys.
I think you've given some great advice or insight into your relationship and how other business owners or business couples can take that advice on board.
Some brilliant tips really in there. Yeah, thank you guys. It's been really interesting, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's great. So yeah, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do it?
Awesome. So there are a couple ways to get in contact with us. Number one, you can go directly to our website, which is billionairethoughts.com. So that's billionairethoughts.com, or they can call us directly at 832-371-6642. Or if they go to any of our social media and put in Sheles or Billionaire Thoughts or Daman, they will be able to find us there. We're heavy on LinkedIn. And then our couples and business page is on Instagram. So either phone call or you can email us directly at Sheles, SHELES, at billionairethoughts.com. But if you went directly to the website, there's a form that pops up and you can just quickly fill that out and we will get in contact with you pretty quickly.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And like we said, we'll put all these things in the show notes as well, so that if people didn't quite catch it, they can maybe get in touch. Who knows?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to say that thank you so much for having us on the show with you guys. And you guys are doing some amazing things in your community and helping a lot of people. So thank you for letting us be a part of that.
No, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show with us.
You're welcome.
Real pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, well, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
And now we come to the knowledge share part of our episode this week. So, Tracy, what is our knowledge share for this week?
Well, this one is called WeTransfer, and it's the simplest way to send your files around the world. If you have a large file that doesn't send by email or by any other means, then WeTransfer is the best way to do it. We'll also put the details in the show notes.
Wow, great share there. So get in touch and let us know if you try it and what you think. We are almost at the end of this week's show, but before we go, we are excited to tell you about our bonus episode this Friday on the Friday Fix, where we will be discussing a business-related subject with a fellow business owner who will be sharing their advice, thoughts or knowledge on a particular topic.
This Friday's episode is with Paul Lillywhite, and Paul will be talking about discovering your values and how you can use that to benefit your business. If you'd like to join us at one of our online networking meetings, then the link will be in the show notes. We'd love to see you there.
Thanks so much for joining us this week on In Business Talks2. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, all we ask is that you simply tell a friend about the show. We'd really appreciate it. So until next time, this is Ian and Tracy, and together
we are In Business. Goodbye.
Goodbye.